Hi, folks. Welcome to Hitting the Mark with Harry and Mark. I'm Mark, and this is my co host, Harry.
Hello.
We're a bunch of idiots who like to talk about things we have no business talking about. Anywho, we hope you're doing well this week. We hope you're alive and well. We hope the pandemic hasn't killed you. We hope crazy nut job conservatives haven't killed you. And best of all, we hope your roommates haven't killed you, if you have any. Anywho, it has been a very packed week, ladies and germs. Very packed. We're going to go over a couple things rather quickly, and then we're going to spend a little more time next week discussing them at length. So we have about three topics we wanted to get out of the way. Then we'll move more into the idiots discussing things for the sake of discussing. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So the first one, if anyone hasn't noticed, is that there was a coup in Myanmar,
there
an
was.
actual fucking coup. Um, Instagram made light of that young fitness instructor who was dancing in her video, and fucking jeeps and whatnot just ran straight to the capital. And were like, we had to captain now. So fucking crazy, right, Harry?
Yeah, the U.S. just had one a few weeks ago, so it's kind of crazy to see that there's another one happening in another place in the world.
Yeah. So a little background. Um, the leader of the democratically elected uh, group is Aung San Suu Kyi. She is the daughter of Aung San, who is another leader of Myanmar. Think about 50, 60 years ago. Aung San Suu Kyi has been held under house arrest for I think about 15 to 20 years, from about the mid 1990s to the early 2010s. She was eventually elected democratically as the president or prime minister, or the head of state of Myanmar at the time. Uh, the military of Myanmar is very independent and very strong, and typically acts against the wishes of the main state. You see this a lot in countries like Egypt. Egypt did this like 8 years ago. You might have remembered with their little uprising. Uh, where they still maintain a lot of power, and the political parties technically abide by whatever the military like says goes. Aung San Suu Kyi's leadership has been marred by the marginalization of the Rohingya, I believe they're pronounced. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. If anyone would like to fix me on that, go ahead. The Rohingya are a Muslim minority population within Myanmar that has been uh, relocated and marginalized by the military, to which Aung San Suu Kyi has been uh, very unable to combat. But all this is coming to a head now with the democratically elected Aung San Suu Kyi being unseated by the military. The military claimed that there was it's almost like we're in like a parallel version, or someone's just filming the Myanmar version of what could happen in our government. They claimed that there was voter fraud in the election and halted the democratic processes, and said that they're going to be under some kind of military sanction for like a year.
Huh.
They're just claiming power. So like I can't help but feel like this could have happened in the United States had our institutions been ever so weaker.
Mm-hmm.
uh, the military having like this overinflated sense of importance is rather frightening. But yeah, there's one less democracy in the world, folks, and that should sadden you. That being said, let's hope for the best, and let's hope that Myanmar is able to return to democratic elections and a democratically elected leader.
Yep.
Secondly, I apologize if I'm stuttering this one, but we have two Valve related issues. One is Valve, ooh, a Valve patent infringement lawsuit. Valve has been fined million in Steam control patent infringement lawsuit. So I'm going to read over this little article. The article I got is going to be from, let's find it, um, Polygon. Uh, SUF and Ironburg Invention, subsidiaries of the computer company Corsair, are known for its custom high-performance video game controllers, specializing in both accessories and custom gear. Um, SCUF holds 105 patents for its designs, according to its websites, many of which relate to its special trigger mechanisms, the rear side controller surfaces, as explained in the case's opening arguments in late January, where the subjects of this particular case, SUF and Valve had copied its back paddles, the ones in the controller body. Let's see. So essentially, what happens is, so that I can paraphrase poorly, is Valve's Steam controller has been using a patented mechanism on their controller that belongs to another company's. This company, I believe, SCUF, or what is it called? Ironburg Inventions, won out in their lawsuit and is now fined Valve $4 million. Um, this is not surprising. Valve has been taking on a far less game developer, more business oriented approach for the last, like, what, 13 years since the end of the Orange Box release on the consoles.
Mhm.
Um, there has been more of a push to sell a product and to uh, create a market in which they don't really need to produce anything, but they're still making money. This is one instance where Valve has kind of been a little, I don't necessarily want to say shady, uh, but they have been caught with their pants down. Uh, we can definitely, as I said, next week read more into the articles when we get a little more research done. I just thought it would be prudent for the two of us to kind of go, or one and a half of us, to go over some of these topics just so we can get a handle on it. Just get ahead of it in the news, you know?
Yeah.
Want to comment on this one, Harry?
Um. Just I guess uh.
Don't patent infringe, man.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Scuff. That's the name of the company. Scuff. I've been following a lot of competitive gaming. Whether it's StarCraft 2 or Call of Duty. So, Scuff has been around for a while, and
Really?
they're, yeah. I mean, basically like early 2010s. Is when I
Mm.
started
And
first.
they say this lawsuit has been going on for about 6 years. This lawsuit began in 2015.
Yeah. So Scuff has been around. From I think the first time I heard it was maybe Modern Warfare 2,
Mhm.
or maybe afterwards. Maybe it was Black Ops. Scuff controllers was like, if you wanted to be good at gaming on consoles, you got a Scuff controller. The back paddles is basically, so instead of removing your thumbs from the joysticks on the controllers, whether it's PlayStation or Xbox, like let's say you want to press X to jump on the PlayStation or A to jump on the Xbox,
Uh-huh.
you have a little paddle on the back of your controller, so you never actually move that your thumb to press the button. You just click it with your middle finger or your ring
Right.
finger in the back of the
Yeah.
controller. So
I
you're
remember that was
never
called a raise at one point because you're never taking your finger off one specific button.
exactly. So Scuff has been doing this for a while, and I mean, there's streamers and professional gamers who are sponsored by Scuff, and they have like codes that you get percentage off on Scuff controllers and stuff like that. So, like I understand Valve wanted this special controller they can use on Steam and all this other stuff, and like it's hard. It's hard not to try to include something like that because I think Xbox obviously specifically was like okay, yeah, we'll let you use our controllers and
Yeah,
add your
it
stuff, and then
it
PlayStation
says
2.
that here is that Scuf has a patent that it allowed, Microsoft and Sony to use,
Mm-hmm.
but Valve not, and Valve has intentionally, I don't know if that's necessarily proven, um, but Valve did use it without the express permission of Scuf.
Yeah.
I don't know how true this is, but Scuff's lawyers allege that Valve willfully disregarded the patents and Scuff's warnings. So it seems that they might have. Well, it seems like they definitely disregarded any kind of warnings. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, as to like Gabe Newell like sitting there like with a knife behind his back, I don't quite know how much of that's variable. But
Mm-hmm.
still, not a good position for Valve. And like I said, I don't feel the entire worst about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's 4 million. This seems a lot like pocket change, and it also
Right.
says that Scuff might be liable, or the parent company Corsair
Mm-hmm.
might actually be liable for more than 4 million,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
And it's funny because I mean, Valve only released X amount of Steam controllers, and they're completely sold out and discontinued. And it says right here, and I know a couple people who actually, and it says that here that there's a deal that offered the controller for $5. I know a few people who bought multiple Steam controllers for $5, so they just
Yeah, we
have
have a
bought them.
friend too that purchased one too. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I
it's
don't get the little nubbin, the little portal nubbin that leads to Gabe Newell's nipple. I never got that little mechanic thing.
but yeah, so it's a interesting lawsuit, and it kind of sucks that they don't they're not even making the controllers anymore, and because
Mhm.
of their decision, they're still getting you know lawsuited left and right.
Yeah. Bastards. Anyway, no, just kidding. As one YouTube would say, this AAA game company. And as if that wasn't pretty bad, and if we're on the Valve dog pile today,
Mm,
um, Valve is in some more lukewarm water with fucking preventing price competition.
mm-hmm.
Um, in an article from Eurogamer.net, lawsuit accuses Valve of abusing Steam market power to prevent price competition. This is bad.
Yeah,
To put it mildly, this is essentially a monopolistic behavior. Um, this is one company exerting power over the market. Um, what's essentially happening is Valve is preventing client companies or client publishers that produce games and publish them on Steam, is preventing them from changing the price to other platforms. So if it's going to be on Steam, which is one of the uh, actually is the only viable video game store that people
yeah,
can use across platforms, it has to be their price. Um,
yeah,
this is a problem in a monopolistic environment where one company can control prices, and it inflexes that to a dangerous degree on other companies and other publishers. Um, you could with competition, you could change the prices to benefit the consumer and benefit the publisher. But let's see if we could take a look at one of the things that's going on in this. The lawsuit alleges developer or publisher must agree the price of a PC game on Steam will be the same price as on other PC platforms. Essentially, the lawsuit claims Steam does not allow developers to price their own games lower on other platforms, which is, I mean, that's fucking crazy.
yeah,
Um, again, folks, if you'd like, well, we're gonna do without your fucking permission. We're gonna look up a little bit more of this. I think a couple of the key things that we're gonna look up, just an overview, um, a little bit of history about Myanmar and military coups around the world, patents and copyright infringement or patent infringement, and then here we're gonna look up a little more like monopolies and price fixing. Um, but this is another instance of a company muscling in on smaller publishers because it's the only one.
yeah,
There is no other store of this magnitude that you can just go on and get games. just like that, especially computer, uh, PC, Xbox, all that kind of stuff, which is insane.
Yeah.
The will it is exerting on the market to essentially tell another company that it has no, uh it does have an economic and fiscal cooperation with, but it does not own this company, but it's
Yeah.
exerting power over it, which is just absolutely insane. Um, I mean, it's not insane, it's fucking capitalism. But it's interesting seeing this company that's kind of morphed into more of like just this corporate entity that's just kind of like created this platform that now it's using to strong arm other companies and other publishers.
Mm.
Listen, I'm not like a big guy like, oh well these other companies are gonna get wrecked. But I mean it's like there probably are indie developers that would rely on other prices for other platforms. And
Yeah.
the thing is that because Steam can set its own prices, it doesn't have to worry about competition, so it can set its prices as high as it wants before people are like, "Oh, you know what? This game is too expensive. I don't want it." But like that's crazy. If there were like another game store or another game store or another marketplace for these mediums,
Yeah.
price competition would be far more viable.
Yeah.
And again, folks, we will try to look into this a little bit more. I'm the one who proposed these ideas, so I'm not going to make Harry look all of this shit up on his own. His ass fucking went to the moon and back uh with the fucking stonk article last week, so I think I'm going to have to do a little bit of research this week. So, I'll come back. We'll discuss this more at length just to give you guys a little more idea of what's going on and just to keep track of like how these things are proceeding.
Yeah. I mean, uh, like what I have to say about this, it's like they are showing monopolistic things because there's sales like every day.
Mhm.
There's like they have the winter sale, the fall sale, the summer sale, the spring sale. Like every
Yeah.
quarter, there's a sale, and everything is basically like 50 to 80% off.
Mhm.
And like every time there's a game that I want, I'm always like, I'm gonna wait till there's a sale
Mhm.
because I know it's gonna get cheaper on Steam. Like there's, why would I pay it at full price anywhere when
Mhm.
Steam's gonna have it for cheaper? I always say I bought BioShock 1, 2, and Infinite for $5 a piece. So for $15, I got all three. I
BioShock was the only one. I don't no. No,
But
it's
what
the
I'm
only one.
saying is, and BioShock Infinite was fairly newer, so
Mhm.
it was just basically, and I think BioShock Infinite was going for like $15 by itself. So it's like I bought BioShock Infinite for 15 and got BioShock 1 and 2 for free. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
who's not going to go for that? And that's just like one thing that Steam does, it's just like, but it's so big because everyone doesn't want to pay for more. It's like G2A. I don't know if you know about that website, but
No.
G2A is a
Fill
website that
me
G2A is a website. Basically, there are people in there that sell video games to you for cheaper. So let's say they buy um games for like mass or whatever. They get these the keys. Like when you buy a game, especially uh, on Steam, you get like a Steam code, which is
in. Mhm.
basically you put this into your Steam and you get the game. So people sell these keys to people who want to buy it because sometimes you
Right.
have extras or you buy it but you really don't want it, so you sell it and whatever, so you can actually get it for cheaper. And you go in there, it's kind of like like eBay or whatever, and people are just selling it like, oh, I'm selling this one for 25. Oh, I'm selling
But
this one
see,
for
that's
twenty
the
four
thing
ninety nine.
is that now you're inflating the price artificially based
Mm-hmm.
on demand for it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the crazy part.
Yeah.
Fucking
But but like that's an example of like why would you buy it from more expensive or in other places for more expensive when you could just get it from these places and get them for cheaper.
yeah.
And Steam, being Steam, can just in plethora just sell all these for hella cheap. Who's gonna buy it? You know, for actual retail price at that point
Oh yeah,
when
of course.
so.
And just because I mentioned Monopoly and it's
Mhm,
like, yeah, the prices on Steam are pretty good, but the thing is it's not always necessarily about the consumer. Like
mhm,
there are severe like repercussions to how it interacts with other publishers. Like
mhm,
it's like I'm no friend of like the big AAA company. Like if they produce a game and I play it, I'm like, oh cool, I'll give them the credit where credit is due. But
mhm.
it's like a significant portion of Steam is indie developers. Like
Yeah.
barely like double digit developer teams or 12 digit like I mean 12 digit like 12 crew like developer teams
Yeah.
or fewer, and it's like they don't have capital to just produce things no matter what.
Yeah.
They come to Steam because it's a viable option, but the thing
Mhm.
is Steam is now divvying out its resources in this ham-fisted strong army way that won't benefit these people.
Yeah.
That's the shitty part.
Yeah, I think I believe it's Epic, the Epic Game Store.
Mhm.
They are doing somewhat to help. I think you're able to work on the current Real Engine through Epic.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
and, and that's a way for them trying to give options for the indie developers. Like, hey, you can if you come with us, you get to use this engine that a bunch of you know great games have been using for a long time.
Mhm.
So and I think with what Steam's doing is a main reason why you like I don't know, like there's a Blizzard store. Blizzard
Mhm.
is basically all Activision games now because they're just like fuck
Mhm.
Steam, we're gonna have our own shit, and that's why Epic Games is a thing. It has Fortnite and some other stuff, and there's Riot Games. That's one with League of Legends and
Mhm.
what's it, Valorant and stuff. Like all these other clients are just doing their own things because they're like you know like they can go through Steam, but Steam has just become this thing where they're kind of like, fuck that, we're gonna make our own thing.
Mhm. Bastards.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's like you're saying, like for any developer who's coming up, it's not like you can, get your game, to Activision or Riot or whatever. It's like, those are massive companies who are making a lot of money who have their own games, and why would they invest any money and try to put your game on, you know what I mean? So
Right.
and their real only option is Steam, and as you're saying, can maybe get a little abusive with that because I mean
No,
there's a lot of great indie games, man.
yeah, of
uh
course.
I mean
And don't get me wrong, like a platform like Steam
mhm,
definitely helps indie developers and indie games
mhm,
become seen and become noticed. But the problem is that well, I mean, it could or could not be a problem, but like do you really think that developer is benefiting from Steam being the only one with the ability to like have their game out?
that's true, yeah.
So, anyway, did you want to add more about this? Again, we could try researching a bit of it next week or
No, I think we'll
okay.
do some more research. And I mean,
We've
who
got
knows?
two more. Harry, I forgot one. When we
You
were
did.
pre-discussing this, I have
Uh-huh.
one that I genuinely want to talk to you about. Oh, it's so good. You're gonna piss your pants laughing. Anyway, on to a slightly more boring one because we're just on the lawsuit train. Um, Activision is being sued over the Modern Warfare character Mara.
Hmm.
Activision is facing a copyright infringement. God, lots of copyright infringement this week. Copyright infringement suit brought by writer, photographer, and video. videographer? Yeah, videographer, uh, Clayton Haugen or Haugen, who alleges the Call of Duty Modern Warfare character Mara is based on a character he created in 2017 for November Renaissance, a story he hoped to build into a feature film. Um, Lead creator in November Renaissance is Cade Janus, a female vigilante and pariah figure uh, caught up in near future corporate warfare, directed by a non-human intelligence over control of the process of human augmentation. It sounds all very Deus Ex-like, although Haugen said the opting for a woman in the lead role would distinguish it from the oversaturated market of action and science fiction films involving men. Um,
Mm.
the rest of the article, by the way, taken from PC Gamer, discusses how this character side by side comparison is compared to Mara from in game. Uh, it's claimed that Haugen pitched this character or the character concept to multiple film studios. Uh, and that most of these images that he used for these characters were copied and were used further. He has no idea what was done with the videos or the photos, but uh, can't necessarily assume from there that they were copied and given to Activision to be used. We can go further into this, but I just wanted to touch upon this.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I wonder how much of this is valid, just because the what we were talking about with copyright, it's
Yeah.
very tricky. One of the things is, let's see, you can't be sued over an intellectual property containing tropes that are how do you put this, that are expected to be in a genre. So
Right.
there are a million young adult vampire romance novels, right? They can't necessarily sue one another because that's expected in the YA paranormal romance genre.
Right.
Um, I'm not entirely sure. I believe the terminology for it is, if you've substituted the market for this character or this IP with your own, then that becomes copyright, where the market for the original thing no longer exists because it's been diverted to the new property.
Mm.
Um, I think this might be the hardest for us to break down because, like the beginning of this fucking podcast says, it's two idiots who talk about shit we shouldn't. Um, because I want to be clear, like looking at these characters left to right, you'd be like, oh, I guess they kind of look alike. I mean, it would make sense. But like,
Right.
again, there's more to it than that. Like,
Yeah.
you can't just look side by side and be like, well, just because these characters are exactly like this means that this was copied.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I understand that one medium is film, one medium is video games. They're completely different genres, but I don't necessarily think that you can make an argument out of hand uh, that this is one-to-one copyright infringement. Um, Again, I'm probably saying this out of my ass out of a degree of naivete. Um, but like I said, you can't, just because of the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about doesn't mean that, like, oh, stupid pants. Just because I'm saying one thing does not necessarily mean that it is not the case.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking here and I'm looking at like the PC gamers side by side comparisons of the character that this man created, Cade Janus and Mara, and I'm like, oh well, I could see some of the stuff they might have gotten, but
Right.
how much of this is creative license? How much of this is just the distinctness within the action genre? Um, like, what is valid? And I don't know. And
Right.
this is something that I wouldn't mind discussing or learning a little about to further discuss more. I don't think I'd have like the end all be all opinion, but I think it would be interesting to walk all four and a half viewers kind of through copyright and how that would work, and
Yeah.
whether or not our 1 week educated brain could talk about
Mm.
this a little more in depth.
Yeah.
Good contribution, Harry.
I mean, you
I've
kind of
got
hit everything on the head. I mean,
yeah, with a fucking sledgehammer. I've got something for you, Harry.
oh,
Do you like Fallout New Vegas?
I do. I really
Do
do.
you hate pedophiles?
Yeah,
That
I
wasn't a
guess so.
trick
Yeah,
question.
yeah. I was like,
Good, good, good.
yeah.
So, um, about 1 month ago, I heard of a mod for Fallout New Vegas,
Hmm.
and it's called Fallout New Vegas Frontier.
Oh,
This game has been in development, I think, with a 12-man crew for about 7 years, uh, to create a large-scale Fallout New Vegas mod
huh.
that takes place, I think, in like Washington, the state of Washington, which features like a Mormon version of the Brotherhood of Steel,
Hmm.
uh, the Legion, and the NCR, and they've added all these new functions, all these new mechanics, and all this new extra crap. And the game received, when it was released, I think about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, mixed reviews. The quality of the game verged from like okay and bombastic and grand to like mediocre in writing, mediocre in some gameplay, and glitchy and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm not here to tell you about a somewhat disappointing 7-year-old video game mod. What I'm here to tell you about is that all of this time, all of this time, Harry,
Hmm.
a developer who has had uh, a specific taste has been working on the production of this game with their fellow developers and managed to include a bunch of content within the game that has now been cut
Oh.
post launch that involves a lot of sexually explicit material.
Oh.
Uh, stuff range. This fucking game is horny. This game is so fucking horny. You can fuck a death claw apparently.
Huh.
Uh, that's not one of the bad thing. Well, that's probably a bad thing. That's some kind of like that's atomozoophilia, whatever. But that's not even the worst part. The worst part is you have some kind of dubious consent related minor who you engage in a uh sub dom relationship with within the game,
Huh.
which is pretty fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Um, you can essentially create, or you can essentially have this person as like not as oh god, Harry, what's the term when you've got Arcade Gannon and Veronica on your side and they're following around and shooting things whenever you don't want them to shoot at them?
The
Companion.
companions.
Thank Yeah. So this person is apparently a companion, and
uh,
you can coerce, and I mean coerce this character into essentially becoming a slave. And
oh.
they
Okay.
are underaged and yeah, I don't want to get too far into it just because it makes me a little uncomfortable discussing it. But needless to say, this guy has been fucking fired. And all of his content, all of the stuff that he was even touching on this game has been deleted.
Wow.
The fuckable death claw, the dubious consent companion, a couple of other things. A lot of the dialogue in this fucking game too, he's touched on as well. Um, I'm like wondering at what point, like, did this guy like join and just no one noticed that there was just like a fucking weird, creepy ass pedophile on the development team.
Hmm.
Yeah, weird stuff. Um, for anyone who is interested, YouTube has like the examples uh, of the game. I came across it when I was watching a review, and this person discussed some of the things that he came across that he was very uncomfortable with, and then I was looking at like what was going on with the Death Claw and like this character on YouTube, and like I don't know how this shit made it into the game. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, like I said, he's gone. The content is gone, but like I think it's probably the most. Oh, how do you put it? Like the most information, or not information, but like uh, the most notoriety you're going to get for a game that was already disappointing to begin with, and it's
Right.
not good notoriety either. So yeah, I just thought I would throw that out there that a game that people have been waiting 7 years for has a fucking psychopath in it who's doing disgusting shit. Weird,
Fair
really
enough.
weird. Anywho, Harry, you had a game that you recommended.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it. I wish I did more research on it, but the concept looks cool. It's called The
Mhm.
Day Before. It's basically an open world MMO like survival game. Basically it's kind of like, I guess, kind of like Last of Us, The Division kind of style.
Mhm.
Uh, it's basically like, it's like a post pandemic um like situation, and like there's like infected people and survivors like just killing each other for stuff. I don't know.
So it's got some MMO looter shooter vibes to it. It sounds like survival.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of a far more, I think, commercial version of like Arma or Daisy.
Okay, 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 yeah, yeah.
Because as much as like well, I'm not trying to knock Arma or Daisy, but like the whole PUBG gameplay and mechanics that you see now remind me of Arma and Daisy, and that like
Yeah.
loose quality meant for PC kind of vibe doesn't exist on the game that you're describing. It feels far more refined for a console.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure now with the next the current gen, I guess now the current gen consoles, uh, it this game should easily be able to get played on the consoles.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's a side note. I think that's a beauty of the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
Hmm.
I don't Xbox and their names. The new Xbox and the new PlayStation. Like their processing units and them having solid state drives makes them fantastic, and it's just games nowadays that are meant to mainly only be on PC can maybe get put onto the consoles now, which is great.
Hmm. Good.
Yeah,
I'm
especially
interested.
now that you can connect your keyboard and mouse, like, you know what I mean, like you can, like, I wouldn't be surprised if like there's a way to like have like, for example, a game that's specific um to PC, something like StarCraft. Uh
Mhm.
like you can just connect, like it being like you can only play this game if you have a mouse and keyboard, and you just use your console as literally a fucking PC, but it's a console and you just play games. But I mean, who knows?
Still, I'm interested in seeing where this is going, and I really
Yeah.
do like the malleability of
Mhm.
the new console generation.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting to see where that goes. Interesting. Interesting. Where do we want to go from here, Bear?
uh I think we can just go straight into WandaVision.
Sure. I'm sure everyone wants to know our opinion on that. Don't you fuckers.
What are your thoughts?
I loved the opening like 4 minutes. I really liked the opening bit in Endgame where we get the perspective of the snap from Hawkeye, Clint Barton's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's harrowing, it's frightening, it adds a really great layer of character drama for Clint. I didn't really care how it panned out in the movie, but interesting premise.
Yeah.
Um, I absolutely loved what they did for the blip in WandaVision with I almost called her Geraldine, Jesus, Monica Rambeau.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the blip, I was a little disappointed that the first instance of the blip, everyone returning, was a joke in Spider-Man: Far From Home. I
Mm-hmm.
think it made sense for the movie, but I don't think it necessarily. That's not fair to say. What I was going to say was I don't think it was a. I don't think it should have been the introduction to the blip, but I think Spider-Man is the perfect palate cleanser um, after Endgame. So I'm a little torn on that personally.
Mm.
Um, the opening of the WandaVision episode 4, or is it 5?
I think it's episode 5.
Okay.
4?
The opening of this episode 4, it's 4,
4, yeah.
sees Monica Rambeau wake up in a hospital, searching around, seeing that it's overcrowded, overpacked, implying that there are people who are missing. And you're thinking, "Oh, what's going on? Who is all this? What's happening?" And you find out that Monica Rambeau was one of the people who got snapped, and she came back,
Mm-hmm.
only to discover that her mother, Monica Rambeau, friend of Captain Marvel, died 3 years prior. Within the 5-year gap
Mm-hmm.
of the snap between Infinity War and Endgame. She was head of Sword. In her grief, Monica goes back to work on active duty. The brass at Sword, the kind of like extraterrestrial version of Shield, gives her this missing person case. She links up with Jimmy Woo, head task force guy at the FBI, who we see in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Uh, where we come to Westview, which is the setting of WandaVision. She gets transported into the plane of existence that Wanda is operating on, while Jimmy Woo, Kat Dennings, oh God, what is her name? Darcy Lewis, I think her name is,
Mm.
and FBI agents and Sword kind of investigate what's going on around the perimeter. Um, this was a good, just as Spider-Man was. This is a good kind of palate cleanser. Kind of don't focus on the genre stuff. Let's just get a moment just to figure out what's going on with Monica Rambeau,
Yeah.
uh, what some of the backstory is there. Get our characters a little more fluffed up, i.e., Jimmy Woo and Darcy Lewis. Uh, I'm just gonna say Darcy because I honestly don't know if Luce is her last name, and I'm just thinking of Lewis.
Oh.
So Darcy. There's some solid comedy in this episode for it being a build-up episode. Like, oh, what's going on? Who is all this, and why are the bananas and cats and the bees and all shit like that? So I liked that we were able to very quickly and very efficiently get to know our characters. I really like what they did with Darcy in this episode. Um, all jokes aside on Instagram, they really did give Darcy way more characterization in one episode where she has 15 minutes of screen time than they do in the first two Thor movies,
Yeah.
which is where she appears.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the mystery just keeps getting stronger. The more and more you're revealed, the more questions you end up having. Like,
Yep.
how is this world operating? What we're finding out is that the environment that they are in is adapting everything that goes in it into the related genre. So Jimmy Woo makes a point of saying that the little helicopter that we see in the second episode is one of the sword drones. Uh, he says that it could possibly be changing its form to that little toy helicopter to prevent it from relaying information to adapt to the genre. We don't quite know yet, but we don't know why. We know that it's happening. The beekeeper was actually a some kind of sword member in some kind of containment suit who,
Mm.
upon crossing the field, is turned into a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm still really enjoying this. I think the comedy works on a level that I don't think is too overbearing like it usually is in a lot of Avengers shows or
Mm-hmm.
Avengers. Um, I'm loving the mystery. I really can't stress enough the refreshing pace that this mystery is providing for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been complaining a lot about shows. I'm watching The Stand now, which is a Stephen King adapted show, which has the same problems that I was telling you about
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek, a
Okay.
really bad pacing.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't have it. This slow burn mystery where we're getting to know the characters, we're getting to know their thoughts and feelings and their motivations is really pleasant. And I don't feel any obligation. I don't feel like they're going through well, this happens in the book, let's just get there and not worry about the characters vibe, which
Right.
is what's happening with the aforementioned show The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's the same thing that was happening with Star Trek. It was more concerned that this plot beat happened than this character beat happened, which I think was a little bothersome for me. Which I did not think in a million years I would have seen in a Marvel show in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
Them focusing almost entirely on the characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think one great thing is I saw it on Twitter. Officer Wu, him doing his little trick with his
Yeah,
business
yeah, yeah,
card.
yeah, yeah.
That's something that he was trying to learn from Ant-Man in the
Magic.
movies. Yeah. And I thought that was like a really cool little like thing that they added that they already had him in a movie, and if you follow the movies, you'd have that you'd find that little Easter egg of like, oh, and like everyone's like, oh, he finally learned how to do it. That's awesome. It's like I think that's great. And like you're saying, they're developing their characters, and Kat Dennings' character too, like you said, that that character hasn't been even included since Thor 2, right? So it's
Right.
great to finally have them back in the Marvel universe, and they're really utilizing all these other characters. Like, all right, we all know the Captain Americas and the Iron Mans. Like, how about these other characters that were kind
Mhm.
of secondaries? Like, let's put them all together. And I kind of like I think what we discussed before WandaVision came out, when they announced all these shows and we weren't really sure how they're going to be doing it and what's what. Like, I think it's a great way to bring all these secondary characters, to get them involved with each other, and
Mhm.
and I think we're reading also that the Winter Soldier and
Falcon Winter
Falcon
Soldier.
was supposed to be before WandaVision. So I'm
Yeah.
kind of intrigued what that has, like what information that has compared to WandaVision now.
Oh yeah.
Um yeah,
From
and
the looks of it,
uh,
it I don't you know what was funny? When I first heard the concept, I was more interested in Falcon and Winter Soldier just because I think at the time I liked those characters more,
mhm,
and the concept alone interested me. But when I saw the trailers for WandaVision and Winter Soldier, it completely flipped. I'm
mhm,
still interested in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I think Falcon and Winter Soldier will contain uh, a little bit more of what we've already seen. Kind of the Winter Soldier Civil War kind of spy action thriller vibe.
okay. I
But
mean,
as you were saying, yeah.
I think I'm still okay to see that, but there's probably some other secondary characters that are gonna be thrown in there that we'd be like, oh hey, it's this person from this movie or whatever, which would be cool.
Oh
I'm
yeah, I
excited.
completely agree. Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
so. I genuinely hope. I'm always worried, and I don't know what the proper rule of thumb is, but I'm always worried about the small universe syndrome, and I'm always worried
Mm,
about uh having too many characters.
right. Yeah. No.
'Cause
Yeah.
if you have small universe syndrome, it means you're usually just I can't see Disney worrying about this, but it usually means you have a small budget and like all of your characters have to solve all of these problems and it's the same character and it kind of gets a little boring.
Yeah.
It's a little difficult for me partly because of the small universe syndrome to see a character like Thor keep going. I love Thor. I would like him to keep going as much as Chris Hemsworth would like.
Hmm.
Um, but I would like to see him paired more with other superheroes or other teams instead of it being a Thor saves the galaxy for like the 50th time,
Right.
or the Guardians save the galaxy on their own for
Hmm.
the 50th time. We've gotten to that point, as I've told you before, where I think the individual characters or the individual groups
Hmm.
have done the proven themselves phase, and now you want to get to the team ups. And I've said this before. I felt Loki was a poor choice for the first Avengers movie.
Hmm.
I thought Red Skull should have been the bad guy. That way, it adds a little more. You have a very recent villain in place. You could do more with Loki's
Hmm.
later stuff. But the idea is that phase one would be introducing all of your characters, getting them on the stage, right?
Yeah.
Phase two would be taking the phase one characters and pairing them
Mm.
while introducing new characters, and you keep sowing and reaping every phase where you keep doing these different combinations and different genre based movies each phase until you get to the desired outcome.
Yeah. I mean, that probably would have worked out.
But that
Yeah.
that being said, I do completely agree. I like where they're going with, as we were saying, the genre bending.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm actually probably more excited now for what they have before, because I think when we talked last time, I was kind of like, I'm good with what Endgame gave us. Like I'm like whatever about these new series, but yeah, I'm actually thoroughly excited. Uh, what
Harry, say that again.
thoroughly
Excited.
excited.
Exactly.
Exactly. um, but yeah, I'm excited to what's gonna come up. It
I'm glad.
sucks that it's only on Disney Plus, but it is what it is. Um,
Yeah, but you see, if you have a Hulu account, you can just add a couple bucks to your Hulu account, and you don't even need Disney Plus because then you'll have it attached to the Hulu account.
huh,
Fuck you, Disney.
honestly, did not know that. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
stuff like that. Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Give it a try, bud. Do it.
Side note, I'm now that there's so many goddamn streaming services, trying to figure out which one. Like I've had my Netflix account for
For
years
years.
now, and I'm kind of debating whether or not to keep it. Like, do I keep Netflix? Do I still even really watch Netflix? Like what?
Yeah,
Because every time we hop on Netflix to like watch a movie or something, it's like there really isn't anything that great that I haven't seen or that people are really recommending. So I'm like, I don't know. Like there's some shows that maybe I haven't seen or whatever, but you know, I don't know. Like it's one of those streaming services that I'm kind of debating uh
keeping or not.
keeping or not. And maybe I was thinking about making the switch to Hulu just for something different, because obviously they have different movies, different shows and all stuff. The other one was it the Amazon Prime Video or whatever.
Yeah,
That's another one that I was debating or not. Like right now I have Disney Plus cuz it came free with my phone plan. But that's one that I'm like, now that I'm intrigued with what's happening with Marvel, I'm kind of like, man, Am I gonna have to renew my Disney Plus so I can see what's next? But if Hulu has it, if I can connect it to Hulu for cheaper, I might have to go that route. You know,
Oh yeah, I could see it.
you know.
You
But
gotta do what you gotta do, Bear.
yeah, we'll see with what I know. But yeah, that was just a little side note. Fucking all these stupid streaming services. Like, who has Peacock? Does anybody actually own Peacock?
Not me.
Oh man, but yeah, WandaVision. I'm excited. Other than what you already talked about in the episode, um, I think I already talked about what I want to talk about in the episode.
Uh, Harry, what did you eat for breakfast?
I don't eat breakfast.
What do you photosynthesize? You fucking communist.
I just wait
Uh,
until lunchtime.
that's immensely. Well, no, it's not important how early you eat, so long as the first meal you have is healthy.
Hmm.
Yeah, I eat 3Ds, Dorito 3Ds every morning.
What did you have for breakfast?
Me? You want to
Yeah.
ask me? I had a chorizo
Mm.
and refried bean quesadilla.
Oh, sick.
Fuck yeah. My girlfriend got me some chorizo. Fucking cooked that shit up. I put some fresh, goddamn crushed refried beans and I made some quesadillas. I made the white people quesadillas, not that, not that. Oh, is that a taco with cheese quesadilla?
Mm.
Man,
Mm.
I miss those quesadillas. I used to work in a restaurant where they did barbacoa every Sunday, and
Mm-hmm.
they would make me that fucking like that fresh, long, ovular corn tortilla with some chorizo,
Yeah.
barbacoa, and some queso fresco. And I'm just like, mm.
Mm.
My girlfriend's looking at me like, now I'm hungry.
Now I'm hungry. Is Livy
Oh,
giving you that
never
look?
mind. She's looking at me like, no, I make you that chorizo. I'm
um.
great.
All right.
Don't be bad. Let's touch fingers. We recently watched an episode of Star Trek where the Vulcan male is like, wife, come to me. And their only sense of affection is taking their two fingers, their index and middle fingers, and connecting them while interacting. So
Huh,
we're going to be doing that now whenever we're just interacting normally.
fantastic.
Damn straight. Harry, I think this might be one of our shorter episodes. Do you want to just call it? I think we got a pretty good amount of information across, and I got some laughs in from you. We got to talk about disgusting pedophiles.
That's true. Uh, would we have enough time for a Revenge of the Sith review?
Harry, I know you're a big Star Wars fan. Okay, you need to stop this. I'm down. I'm fucking down. So
Okay,
you won't you finished the prequels,
I did. I'll try to make it as short as possible, but
Harry.
yeah. So
I've always got time.
for sure. Okay, so part two was pretty bad. But now that I finished part three, um I have to say they did a fantastic job of setting up the Empire.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um from Phantom Menace all the way to the very end, I'm like, wow, like that storyline of the Empire rising up, of Palpatine rising in power and all that, like it's great.
I think
Obi-Wan's story
yeah.
is fantastic. Him becoming who he is and who he eventually becomes was really great. All the interactions, obviously he was the comedic relief, and I love that he was that character.
All right.
um I think the I believe part three's storyline of Anakin and Padme was better.
Hmm.
Now that I see how they wanted to end it, I think they really messed up in part two. I think there were they
Mhm.
rushed it.
I think one of the things is the dialogue in 3 between the two of them is a lot less cringy.
Yes, 100%
Like,
agree.
I I think what a lot of people do is they, like, carry over the cringe from the
Mm-hmm.
entirety of episode 2,
Hmm.
and then when there are some honestly really genuine bah, when there are some genuinely good moments between the two of them,
Hmm.
like, like, that cringe factor kicks in when it shouldn't necessarily.
Right. I think it was a good thing that I took some time off from watching part two and part three because, yeah,
Mhm.
like it was still in the back of my mind, but since I came in with like, I took a break, fucking didn't even think about it and then came back with kind of like a more fresher perspective on the movie that it kind of helped when it came to that cringe factor of episode 2 of the dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you.
Yes. But yeah, I was talking over with my girlfriend that uh, um like what I think they forced they that relationship too quickly in
Mhm.
episode 2. And just the way they wrote uh Anakin in um in episode 2 is just very the best term I can use is creepy, very
Yeah.
straightforward and hostile.
Mhm.
Where I think it would have been way better if they wrote him very similar to how Obi-Wan was in the Phantom Menace. Very,
Fair.
very Jedi-esque, I think the whole cockiness behind Anakin was a little, to me, I think too much. I think if they wrote him very similar to Obi-Wan when he was, coming, up and, taking over as Anakin's master, I think it would have been better. I think instead of Anakin coming in, um, like already deeply in love with Padme and always thinking about her and all this stuff and being super creepy about it, if he came in being, a Jedi in training, and then that whole like situation where Anakin has to, you know, uh, be Padme's bodyguard, I think that was great. I think that was fine.
Yeah.
What
I think I think maybe like what I was saying last week where it's like if the dynamic was changed a little bit where it's like
Mhm.
they developed a relationship out of like the pressure. Like if they were
Yeah.
constantly on the run, you would have more set pieces of them like
Mhm.
connecting through the conflict.
Yes. I think that would have worked way better if
Mhm.
Anakin and Padme fell in love in their little like, situation when they ran away and stuff. I think Anakin going back to save his mother was, I think that was fine. I think that was okay. I think
It's a strange detour though. It
it
really is. Like
it's a
the
really strange
whole
detour. Yes.
yeah. The whole point of the whole like progress of the movie just stops so that he can go back and have like a dark side moment.
Yeah.
And I can see that scene being important, but
Yeah.
I just can't see a scene where that just works. I can't see an
Mhm.
instance where that like genuinely works. Like
Yeah.
I understand that it's important. Like you
Mhm.
can't just have Anakin like spend these next 3 movies just not visiting his mother. Like it makes sense that she dies and he has this moment of anger and violence.
Mhm.
It goes towards the character, but it's like it's such a shoehorned detour.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree. Um I think they should have again maybe taken that part out. Just have them in I forgot what that planet is, but where she was queen, and kind of had them fall in love there. Become romantically involved and whatnot. I don't like the whole marriage thing. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think the I think the best time for him to turn into the dark side was in episode 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
where basically like him and Padme are in love. Maybe they're little, they started getting together, and then Padme becomes pregnant, and obviously he's deeply, madly in love with her, and she's deeply, madly in love with him, and then he's getting these visions. Obviously, Sith Lord knows, and he's like, I'm gonna take advantage of this. I'm gonna turn him to the dark side, and manipulation and all that. It's like I think that could have easily worked way
Mhm.
better. You know,
Yeah.
um,
But see, like again, like that works so much more because of his mother's death, and it works so much more so poorly because there's no reason why that should be there. Like
right,
thematically, like it makes sense. Like he loses her, and losing Padme is the next thing that he doesn't want, which he knows because he lost his mother. But
right,
again, it's like there's no point. Like
yeah,
there's no like there is no way they could have done that in my mind where it would have like fit
yeah,
appropriately. Like that scene in a vacuum completely works. Like it's handled a little creepy, like, oh, I confess to you that I just massacred a bunch of fucking ethnic people on this desert planet. Like, whatever. But like it doesn't work in relationship to the entire rest of the film.
yeah. No, I agreed.
But yeah, no, I like where your head's at with the relationship thing. Like
Yeah,
it just doesn't work in this like slow romancy kind of thing.
Ye- yeah,
Like I was saying, it should have been like the relationship forged in fire.
yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. But other than that situation, part three was actually really good. I'm glad you convinced me to actually watch it. um, because yeah, it everything like when other than the whole Anakin Padme situation, like everything else is beautifully written.
Mhm.
It set everything up for the original trilogy perfectly.
Yeah. I'd
Obviously
like
the
I'd like to point out that like the writing is superior in the third one. I
mhm,
don't know what it like there's some really like out of pocket moments like, oh, there's footage of him killing younglings, and
yeah,
like the bit of Anakin just like all of a sudden just doing this 180 turn to the dark side. Sure, yeah.
mhm,
But there's some really good dialogue in there where it's
mhm,
like
mhm,
what's there's this really great bit of mirrored filmmaking where in the beginning when he kills Dooku
yeah,
and Palpatine orders him to, he falls back onto the code. He says it's not the Jedi way.
mhm,
And the entire movie, he's like holding onto a thread on what a Jedi should be and who he is, right?
yeah,
Um and the rest of the movie is Palpatine kind of filling his head with this concept of the Jedi being evil and being wrong and
mhm,
being hypocrites. And another really great, or not another really great, but the top off to that is when he's in the office after Windu's fucking whoop assed Palpatine, and
yeah,
he says to Windu, it's not the Jedi way.
right,
So at this moment, he's literally gone there, not expecting to save his wife, but trying to at the very least uphold his vow as a Jedi.
mhm,
And Windu breaks that because
yep,
Anakin is the one who says he needs to stand trial, da 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 this, da 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 that. It's not the Jedi way. Windu completely unilaterally acts and goes in the face of everything that the Jedi are all about.
right,
And that Windu is another character study that I really like because I think he's an embodiment of everything that's wrong with the modern Jedi. And I think I don't mean that like the character is terrible. I think Windu is a very solid character,
mhm,
but I think George Lucas was really did a good job at creating a character who existed within the modern Jedi framework as kind of like a stagnant, arrogant character who is more reliant on like physicality. Um,
Mm.
Back to the point. I'm sorry. Beginning of the movie, kills a guy, feels bad about it because it's not the Jedi way.
Right.
Midway through the movie, kills Windu because of the reflexive hypocrisy that he sees,
Yeah.
that Palpatine has been sowing in him. Like that's solid writing. That is really good setup and payoff about his character. Like what's another one too? The visual storytell. Well, no, that's less dialogue. Um, let's that's probably my favorite bit of the writing.
Mm.
Um, yeah, that's my favorite bit of the writing. I think a lot of what I appreciate about George Lucas is he's more of a visual storyteller. Um, he wrote almost all of this himself, which is why it's really like patchy and finicky.
Mm.
But like he has really good moments in the third one. Like the "You were the chosen one" bit at the end, that always hits me. Like
Yeah.
I I'm I'm not the biggest prequel guy, but I Ewan McGregor sells that
Oh
performance.
yeah.
And what's more too is it's not like the dialogue is crap to begin with.
Mm.
Like it's a solid line. Ewan McGregor sells it, and the visual composition of the scene sells it too.
Yep. I
So
think with that specific situation, I was thinking about how like he even tells Yoda in the temple, says I can't, I don't, I can't, what do you say, I can't kill
he's
Anakin.
my
He's
brother.
exactly, and he ends up not killing him. If Yoda was there, Anakin would have been dead. If any other Jedi was there, Anakin would have died. He would have been
Yeah,
killed. But because Obi-Wan went and he said beforehand, I can't kill him, he ends up not killing him. Like you would think, like, wouldn't you just kill him out of mercy? Like I'm gonna put you out of your mercy because you're literally burning. You're on fire. I cut you cut your legs off and shit. Like, cause like,
yeah,
but no, he ends up just leaving.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Out of pain,
yep.
out of spite. Oh no, I was wrong. The You made me think of the other line that I absolutely love.
Oh, perfect.
Part of what I was telling you last week or 2 weeks ago about like Obi-Wan being the improper trainer, and it's like what we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about, where Obi-Wan has a lot of growing up to do in
Mm-hmm.
the entire prequel trilogy, and he doesn't do it until the end.
Yeah.
And it's only during the course of the 19 years in between episode 3 and episode 4 does he become the lovable wise sage.
Yeah.
He's unable to see the what the Jedi have become, and it's in the line when they're getting ready to fight, and Anakin says something like, I see past the lies of the Jedi, sada something something," and he says, "Don't make me kill you." And Obi Wan, without even like missing a beat, because he's so uh, is
Mm-hmm.
only a Sith deals an absolute.
Oh.
And to anyone that might be like, "Oh, that's a cool line," but it's like what makes that line so fucking silly is it's a hypocritical statement because that in itself is an absolute. He's so unwilling to see what circumstances the Jedi have done to get them to this moment, to get them to extinction, to get them to the destruction of the Republic as an institution,
Mm-hmm.
as an organization. He's unwilling to see that, and he still doesn't see it by the end of the movie. He's got growing up to do in between 3 and 4. That's the kind of writing that I really like. Because it shows something about the Jedi that you don't see in the original trilogy. They're just
Right.
a bunch of space wizards who had a lot of power once, they don't, and they commune with the space telekinesis. But here you realize that the Jedi aren't that likable. Like you strip away the swords, you strip away the Force, they're not a likable organization.
Yeah.
They think they have the wherewithal to know everything that they need to do. They they claim to be impartial and opt out of very important things that they could have intervened in to save a lot of people. Uh, they were unable to see a guy who was right in front of them fucking them in the ass.
Yeah.
And it was that ego and that corruption, that degree of corruption. It's not like they were fucking taking bribes or anything,
Yeah.
but that inability to be introspective of their own motivations, which led them down to downfall. And Obi-Wan is a part of that.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm again, long story short, all down to why I like 2 parts of dialogue in this fucking nearly 3-hour movie is that quote.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I saw that third one. Definitely dug it, and I'm glad I'm glad I gave myself some space between episode 2 and episode 3.
Oh
Yeah. I definitely have a different perspective of yeah, the Jedi in general. Because you're right, you do see it in like how everything goes, and like you said, like when Window is just like he's too dangerous to keep alive. Like, but it's like, but you have this code that you teach everyone, and we're supposed to follow it. How are you gonna just break it just because of you know what I
and
mean?
you're gonna break it in front of the most mentally unstable Jedi of the
Right.
yeah.
Like you purposely asked him not to be around because you knew
The
he was
shit.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was mentally unstable. So it's like since he's there, you're like, you're right. It's like it doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
Yeah.
Um.
Like I think the whole point of this trilogy is to prime Anakin Skywalker. So he's
Right.
introduced. He's so episode 1 he's introduced. Episode 2 he's challenged, and episode 3 he is turned. And I think
Mm-hmm.
with the exception of it being immensely lopsided,
Mm-hmm.
I do find a lot of the reasons he turns compelling. Like he delves into hate because he loses the only connection he has, his mother. He takes drastic measures to ensure the people that he loves stay alive. His child, and or his the person who he believes is his only child, and his wife. And then it is only when he believes that he has nothing left to lose that he becomes the monster that he was always worried about becoming.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he eventually does lose it, he becomes Darth Vader.
Right.
Yeah. That, like I said, it's a little lopsided how that happens. You have to take a character who you develop into a likable person and then tarnish him in essentially what, 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's hard. I don't fault anyone for having that kind of issue.
Right.
Uh, but I don't give. Well, I probably am giving it a little bit excuses because I'm talking about it so much because I am a Star Wars fan. But uh, it doesn't excuse a media like Star Wars either way.
Right.
Are you gonna watch any of the spin-offs of the sequel trilogy? I give you.
Um. Which spin-offs are those?
Well, there's
Oh, that fat list of the new ones that are coming out.
no, not
I'm
those yet. I mean like Rogue One and Solo and
we've already seen those. I really, I wasn't the biggest fan of Solo. Rogue One was dope. Um,
mhm,
I think that's it, right? Have been the only spin-offs.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, Rogue One was really good. I was glad to see a movie that was Star Wars, but not Star Wars, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Hmm.
It was good. I was like, wow, this is great. Why don't they do this more often? But
Hmm.
it's kind of like what you were saying about WandaVision. And I agree with you. The beginning of the episode where you kind of see what happened when everyone was coming back, like seeing kind of like the background, like it was great to see that
Hmm.
in Rogue One where you kind of see the background of things, like yeah, you had cameos, but the majority of the movie was background characters that you would probably have never heard about, and never
Mhm.
seen, right?
I I agree with you on that. I actually, if I may,
Hmm.
Nando v movies, for anyone who wants to watch, actually makes a really good argument for the pacing and the structure of Rogue One.
Oh, okay.
If you're interested, Harry, I recommend you take a look. He mentions the structure of Rogue One. Uh, it the movie itself is really good, except the motivation of the character is kind of saddlebagged when two events in the movie should technically be switched.
Oh,
The event when Galen Erso is killed should be the first main event, and the going to Jeddah should be the second event. Um, i.e., this happens because the relationship between Cassian Andor and Jyn Erso is fractured after the death of Galen Erso. Um,
okay.
and then at the end of the second act, somehow the main character has like this crisis of conscience where it's like,
Mm,
we need to do this, we need to help. This is the moment, technically speaking, where she realizes that the rebellion willingly bombed and killed or her father, so
yeah.
she should be skeptical of this. So it's just interesting watching his breakdown of that is very interesting.
Mm,
I do recommend anyone who's interested. He gives a very thoughtful take on it. This isn't just fan service or fan fiction. He has some kind of degree or education in film, I think. He does thoughtfully break down uh, the information that he's kind of trying to excuse, if you would. If you want, Harry, it's
yeah.
not even like 17 minutes. Take a look. Anyone who's interested,
No.
I do recommend NANDO V space V movies. Just look up Rogue One or any other thing that you really want to see. He has uh, very good arguments for why he does certain things that he does, and a lot of things that he does, I don't even think are oh, how do you put it? They aren't really things that you would get bent out of shape over. I think they're very easy to agree with. I think they're very agreeable and likable changes. That almost none of these things really alter much of the movie. You could probably cut Rogue One the way that he says with all of the footage that you currently have, and you could still make a fairly competent movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anywho, if you're interested, take a look, Harry. I'm
I
gonna
will.
quiz you tomorrow. Um,
Uh,
anywho, I think
yes.
I think we did pretty good today.
Me too.
Yeah, I've got a lot of fucking homework to do next week. Jesus,
Testicles.
Harry, why did you make me do it?
It's for your own good.
I fucking hate you. All right, folks, let's do the plug-in. Let's get the fuck out of here. All right,
Yeah.
folks, we appreciate you giving us a drop, listening to us. Um, oh my god, I don't have any of the outro information. Oh fuck. Um,
We have a
I've got
Twitter.
the email. I've got the fucking dropping the ball. Don't spear me. All right, folks. If you're interested in dropping us a line, asking us any questions, how tall we are, our love lives, that kind of thing, you can hit us up on our email. It's hittingthemark2020@gmail.com. Again, if you have any questions, if you want to just, ask us how we're doing, how much we pay for milk on a day-to-day basis, just message us. We also have a Twitter if you're interested in that. At capital H, capital T, capital M underscore podcast. HTM underscore podcast. Hitting the mark underscore podcast. If you're interested, give us an ad. We'd love to have you folks get any input, see what your lives are like. Peer beyond the veil. Anywho, we folks, bleh, 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 we hope you
Bleh.
folks have a wonderful week. Catch you next week.
All right. Bye bye.
Auf Wiedersehen, assholes.